Criminals number 6. Pretty much at this point, this is post Susie and Jonathan finding out about the sex police. So now they are pretty much like kind of distant from each other. This issue is told through John's perspective, and he's very down on himself. He's very paranoid. For some reason, he's kind of like talking through like this gray version of himself that doesn't have any genitalia for some reason. So we kind of see him processing that. He's very paranoid about the sex police, find out where he works, which actually we see the leader of the sex police show up at his work, at his bank, to make a deposit. And then we also see this other guy that he is working with that is kind of like onto him about something. So the issue ends with Jonathan basically saying, like, I'm declaring war on the sex police. So very interesting turn of events here. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting way to kind of start the second volume. We kind of left it off on a cliffhanger in the first volume trade paperback, so really cool to see where this goes. But yeah, I really like the characterization here. I like that it very naturally flows back and forth between Susie and Jonathan kind of narrating the issues. It doesn't feel very disjointed at all to me about that. So, but yeah, really cool to see this, and we'll see how the rest of this turns out. So that was Sex Criminals number 6. Criminals number 7. So Susie comes out to Rachel and basically tells her about her whole power, about how she can go into the quiet and all that stuff. So pretty interesting little turn there. Wasn't expecting that so quickly, but yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, the rest of the issue is kind of more backstory filling with John, kind of just talking about his time in high school, I guess, or middle school, where he developed pictures and was crushed on this one girl, and obviously stuff like that. And we find out that he's still kind of hanging around in the quiet, and as he's doing that, one of the people that was hunting him down from the sex police runs into him in the quiet, and he ends up beating him up and actually like tying him up and stuff. And that's when he runs back to Susie and Rachel's apartment to tell them that the sex police is back onto them again. So I don't think at this point John knows that Rachel knows about their powers. So that's kind of an interesting take here. But I like this issue. It's really, kind of setting up the stage more for a larger confrontation down the line. But yeah, I really do like the way that Fraction is kind of sprinkling in some backstory here with John, kind of developing him more as we go along here. So definitely give him credit for that. But yeah, guys, this has been Sex Criminals number 7, and on to the next issue. Criminals number 8. So a couple of things happen in this issue. We get Susie and John splitting up. Susie goes to her doctor, I guess, to get observed, and she ends up asking her doctor out. His name's Robert Rainbow, who actually turns out to be childhood friends with John. So we find out that John is kind of in a bad state. He ends up... Well, actually, before we get to that, I will talk about Robert Rainbow. We do get a flashback to his childhood where his parents were doing some like role play stuff and he saw it and he's traumatized by that. So again, going back to John, we see that he is seeing his therapist and he's not getting really good help from him. So he actually runs to this guy in a food court who convinces him to see him going forward. So that's interesting to see that. And then the end of the issue ends with Rachel, Robert, John, and Susie all hanging out together, going out, I guess, to dinner. And as they're going to dinner, they notice that the library that Susie works at is actually being torn down by none other than the people that work for the sex police. So that's kind of where our story ends. Very interesting ending there. And obviously the introduction of Robert Rainbow into the story here. I don't know how much he's going to be in terms of a role here, but really interesting to see his kind of perspective on stuff as well. And I thought this was a really good issue. Again, just further developing the characters. Still getting that fourth wall breaking stuff by Susie. So really cool to see that still. But yeah, I love this issue. Art by Zdarsky, on point as always. So on to the next issue. Criminals number 9 gives us some backstory on Anna Kincaid, otherwise known as Jasmine St. Cocaine, who is the porn star that John admired growing up. So we kind of get some backstory on kind of what her path was, kind of trying to get into college, not have enough money to do it, basically resorting to dancing and eventually becoming a porn star. So we get some backstory on that, pretty tragic story with her, honestly. And the whole reasoning for this is apparently John discovers that she also can go into the quiet. So their plan is to get back at the sex police who tore down the library and basically use all the people that can go into the quiet to kind of team up against them to take them down, essentially. So we get some more kind of backstory with what happened with Anna Kincaid. She actually ends up going to college, getting several degrees, and is actually a professor of horology, I believe is what she calls it. And she has office hours, and that is where John and Susie go to see her, to kind of see, what's going on and if she can help them. So really interesting kind of tie in there for sure. And really excited. This issue definitely is pretty cool. Did not expect her to be kind of a main player in this, but we'll see how the rest of this trade finishes up. I think we have 1 or 2 more issues here before we finish up this trade. So I'm not sure if these trades are, I'm on the second one, by the way. I'm not sure if this one is, linked to a particular storyline or whatever, but I really like this issue. I think it's really cool to include this character into the mix here, and looks like John and Susie are back together, and that's good to see. Thank God. But that was Sex Criminals number 9, guys. Sex Criminals number 10. We get a couple of things going on here in this story. We get, trying to remember. just read the issue. We get some stuff going on with Susie and John talking to Dr. Kincaid about going into the quiet. John goes to his therapy session with that guy that he met last issue. And we get some more development going on between Rachel and Robert Rainbow, who we met last issue as well, or I think 2 issues ago maybe. But the two of them are kind of hooking up eventually. And the main portion of this issue has basically Susie and John trying to simultaneously have an orgasm and enter into the quiet at the same time that Dr. Kincaid does. So they both go to a hotel room. They both are able to do it at the same time. And Susie and John discover that when Dr. Kincaid enters into the quiet, she actually becomes a illuminated orange ghost, which is kind of cool. At the same time, we find out that the sex police has found out about this occurrence and are pretty troubled by the fact that 3 of them now are entering into the quiet together. So I think they feel kind of threatened by it, and they are trying to find a way to eliminate them. So this is surprising to see that this issue didn't lead to any type of throwdown. I mean, I guess these trades, this is the end of the second trade of Sex Criminals, so I guess there isn't really any type of delineated story arcs going on here. It's kind of an overarching story arc, I guess. But I really like this issue. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. The relationship between Rachel and Rainbow is interesting. At one point they're at a bookstore in this issue, and they're kind of talking about dick pics and all this other stuff. So you could definitely see there's a relationship forming there. But yeah, John and Susie, really cool to see that. During the point where John almost orgasms with Susie, he's inner monologuing to himself to say it to her, and part of me thought that he was going to tell her that he loves Kincaid because that was the porn star that he liked growing up. But I think he was going to try to say to her, to Susie, that he loved her. So that obviously didn't happen. But regardless, I think this is a really good issue, and about a third of the way through this series. So really liking it so far, and really excited to see what the third volume brings us. So again, that is Sex Criminals number 10.